And welcome back. Joining us now is Nathalia Fernandez, Democratic candidate for the 80th Assembly District. And good to have you.
Afternoon.
Good afternoon. Good to have you. So,
Thank you.
talk to us a little bit about this. You're now in the race. People ask the question, why?
Why? Because I love this district. I started my career in public service soon after college. That's when I first began volunteering in political races, the first with the then Assembly member Mark Jonai. And it just struck my heart, really, being able to help the community do something actual, being able to bring the funds and seeing the differences possible. So in my time from 2012 to now, I've experienced a lot, especially in the district. Now, then going up to Governor Cuomo's office, I was appointed Bronx representative a year ago now. The possibilities are endless, and being, I want to say, a lucky one to be in this realm, having worked around it, it's just something that I felt I needed to do for the girls behind me, the ladies in front of me, and everyone around me.
Talk to me a little bit about the district as a whole. A lot of issues that you can center on, but one of those is the quality of life. How would you address the quality of life issues in the district?
Quality of life, there's always little bits that are struggling. I think my district is a great district. We have great relationships with our precinct and our community organizations that talk to one another and basically keep everyone in the loop of any major concerns. But of course, there are some issues that still are prolonging, such as crime rates, small or big. The opioid epidemic has reached up to my district, and also just keeping businesses thriving. My district is fortunate to have a few merchant avenues, and I want to see them flourish and still growing to provide for their constituents and their customers.
So let's move to the topic of education. Obviously a big concern for you. How do you view the education system, and what would you do if elected in the area of education?
Education, I want to give more to our public schools. Right now, in my district and in the Bronx, our public schools are not in a good place. They're lacking in funding, and that funding is for supplies for teachers, after-school programs, utilities, such as technology and even the air conditioning. And our public schools shouldn't be in the conditions. While we have our charter schools that are great, and that's a wonderful option, for those that can't get there, I want to make sure our public schools are just as good. So a priority that I have is to make sure that whether through my capital funding or discretionary funding, I want to give back to our public schools to make sure that every child has a good opportunity and a good education.
Outside of education, what would you say is the next biggest thing that you want to see tackled?
The next biggest thing, healthcare. It's really unfortunate and sad that the administration right now is trying to take that away from every citizen and person in this United States and this state, New York. So I want to be an advocate to make sure that elderly, children, any individual is able to get some type of health care to address their health, their concerns, whatever issue may be, because it's not fair that has to be a choice in a daily life, whether I'm going to take care of myself or I'm going to, be able to feed myself.
I want to talk about health, not just in addition to health care, but you're talking about transportation options. You talk about one of the things you want to do is strengthen those options. Can you explain?
Transportation, as we know, is another struggling topic in New York, New York City specifically. The MTA is not in good conditions right now. I have been leaning towards the support of congestive pricing because there just needs to be a new revenue. New York State, we know where the money is going right now, and right now there is not enough or anything that we can grab from to be able to fund the needs of the MTA. So, and also our bus systems, we need to come up with better scheduling, maybe direct lines to make sure these bus systems are on time, because too many New Yorkers are getting affected with late schedules and threats to their jobs. And yeah, we just want to make sure that they're okay.
So you are in favor of congestive pricing?
In a sense, yes. Not too much, because obviously another toll is never good. And a price increase is not good on us. Because our wages are not up to the level that the governor has promised, the 15% wage. It's hard to take on another tax, but little by little, $1 or $2 here and there throughout a course of years, I think would make a difference to be able to bring funds to then address just the transportation issues.
Well, one issue that's taxing our community right now is the opioid drug use, and we know that a lot of people are being affected by it, particularly in smaller communities, rural communities. Everybody seems to be affected by this. How do you address this? What would you see? What would you like to see done?
I want to see more recovery centers because there needs to be a draw into, or there needs to be a draw from the community to these centers. The state has been making strides in providing funding for new therapy centers, recovery centers, to relieve of this addiction, because it is an addiction that is unfortunately, taking over many in the Bronx. And with that comes education. We want to be able to attack the problem before it gets to a problem. So I would like to see some curriculum added into our education system to teach these kids of the threats of this, and hopefully that goes to their parents and family members, and through family support and friends and neighbors, they can come to that realization that I need the help, and then the help is there.
For people who don't know Nathalia Fernandez, who is she?
Nathalia Fernandez is a lover of the Bronx. I was not born here, but my family has instilled themselves. My family is from Cuba and Colombia. My father came here at a young age from Cuba, my mother from Colombia, and their home started in the Bronx. My family did start in the Bronx. I'm one of 6, so with the growing family, unfortunately, we couldn't fit in the apartment anymore. But the district itself has stayed with me. That's where I spent my summers, that's where I spent my weekends, and someplace I really just love to now call home. And again, this was where I began my career in public service, and I want to be able to continue that, especially for this neighborhood.
And you've served as Mark Jonah as Chief of Staff. What lessons have you learned, and what would you apply going forward?
Lessons. Every voice matters. Every single voice. When I was the Chief of Staff, I was that person that if you couldn't speak to Mark, if you couldn't speak to anybody else, you spoke to me. So in really listening to every person from every corner of the district, every neighborhood, I've grown an understanding of what the neighborhoods need. Everybody matters. Every concern is worth looking into. Every need is worth trying to provide for, because, again, this is our quality of life. We want to make sure that people are living well, that they're happy, that they feel safe, that they feel, what's the word?
Appreciated.
Appreciated,
Right.
yes, appreciated.
And so we want to make sure that people know about you. So if people want to find out more about how to get in touch, how to get connected with your campaign, what do they do?
Well, you can go online. Fernandez2018.com is my website. I'm also on Facebook and Twitter. My Twitter handle is Fernandez4NY, and that's a 4, the number 4. And my Facebook page, Nathalia Fernandez for State Assembly. You can see what I'm doing daily here in the district. And on my website also has additional platforms that I have on there and what I hope to address when I enter the Assembly.
Before I let you go, let me ask you this question. You've been out on the campaign trail for a minute. Election time is right around the corner, but what have you been hearing from people?
I've been hearing great things. It was really the community that encouraged me to take this step. I always knew I wanted to stay in the public service sector, whether staying with the governor or moving on to another not-for-profit that serves a community in need. And when Mark Jonah had went on to the city council, that was really the open door to say you can do this or you can stay where you are. And my community did reach out to me, kind of put the seed in my head, you can do this, and I knew I can, but of course there was a little bit of reservation. As a woman, you always have reservations to take that step forward, but in this time, this day, me as a Latina and a woman, I felt the Bronx needed more representation from somebody active as I am, from somebody with the knowledge and experience that I have, and someone who cares as I do.
Nathalia Fernandez, she is running for the 80th Assembly District, Democratic candidate. Thank you so much for coming and sharing with us in the district.
Thank you.
All righty, listen. We want to thank you for joining us. We want you to stay with us. We've got more coming up right after this.